dynamic is that a lot of attorneys get focused on the individual juror. Is that person going to be good or bad for my case? And the problem with that is that a lot of times you stop. Here in California, we have backstriking, so you can stop and look at how your whole panel is. And even though you may look at the panel and say, juror number 6 is bad juror for me, but on the whole, they're not an opinion leader. In other words, they're not going to move other jurors. So you may say, gee whiz, I've got 4 jurors up there who are actually okay. And if I keep striking, at least here in California, the other side may strike off some of my good jurors. I may hold at this point and hope that the other side holds too. In which case, even though I've got a juror on there who I'm not crazy about, I've got 4 on there who I think are stronger than they are and will carry the entire panel for me. That I find is a largely underestimated tool, just about looking at the entire panel when you're doing it and finding out really what your strength is. Now, the other thing that I find is important is to understand really not just what that one panel looks like, but just what's the right personality in the panel that you want for your case. When I was doing the Heidi Fleiss case many, many years ago, we wanted jurors who had a sense of humor because we were saying the government's investigation was ridiculous, and we wanted them to laugh and not take the charges seriously. So we wanted jurors with a sense of humor. There are some cases when you're doing plaintiff's work where you need the jurors to be serious. You want anger, you want a certain seriousness on your particular panel. So you are looking for a general sensibility. Sometimes if I've got a bad fact case, I just want jurors who are going to fight with each other. So I'm looking for the strongest counterposing personalities that I think may mix it up in the jury room. For a plaintiff and for a prosecutor, for the most part, you need jurors who are going to get along because you need a consensus. Plaintiff in a federal case needs a unanimous jury. A prosecutor in any case needs a unanimous jury. And for the most part, you need to minimize dissent if you're a plaintiff in a civil case in state court because, of course, you need a consensus of 9 or 6 or whatever it is that you need to achieve that verdict. The other thing that we like to look at in this is what's a great liability juror versus what is a great damages juror. And sometimes they are not one and the same thing. Some jurors are fantastic in terms of holding that defendant accountable for their actions, but they won't award you 6 cents when it comes to damages. So you have to really analyze that dynamic. The same occurs when you're doing a death penalty case, because you can have a great guilt juror, but a horrible penalty juror. In other words, they're really, as soon as they get past the guilt phase, then they're willing to give the death penalty. No questions asked, as opposed to somebody who says, you know what, that they're going to be more likely to find that defendant guilty, but they're really going to struggle with the notion of whether they're willing to give the death penalty. So the panel dynamic and the individual personalities really become quite important when you're looking at this in general. Now, a couple of myths that I find are greatly done, let me adjust the camera here on this, that are kind of greatly overestimated in this, which is we have a lot of trepidation on attorneys' parts when they talk about whether you're going to poison the panel. Don't worry about poisoning the panel. Unless a juror says, yeah, I know you're a plaintiff and he's a cheat and a liar, that's poisoning the panel. But in general, if they just have bad opinions about doctors, about contractors, jurors are going to have those opinions anyways. And you want to flesh that out, bring it out into the open. I just wouldn't worry about that. I don't know why the camera light just went on. The other thing that I find is a big myth in jury selection is obviously is demographics. And I sent some PowerPoint slides to Ted to talk about this. You know, you're really looking at, first and foremost, attitudes, beliefs. You're looking at life experiences. Those drive decision-making, personality. Demographics. If I had a nickel for every time an attorney said to me, am I looking for black or white, old or young, educated, non-educated? Those are stereotypes. They do not determine verdict preference in a case. There are instances where they can, but it really doesn't happen that way. So So I would let go of that completely. Um, you do want to build a certain amount of rapport. I mean, when you're approaching them in voir dire, self-disclosure is a great thing. You want to be approachable, but mainly you just want to, one of the most important attitudes in jury selection, which I find is sorely missing these days, is just pure curiosity. Really being curious, really wanting to find out how a juror thinks is one of those bottom line attitudes that will always yield you rich gold when it comes to juror attitudes, because people don't often have the experience of somebody listening to them. And if you can ask questions and really listen to them and find them interesting, jurors by themselves will really they latch onto it. They really do latch onto it, and they're willing to disclose more. And sometimes the little bit of self-disclosure allows you to do that. Open body posture, moving through the panel. Try not to go one by one through the jurors. Don't tell jokes, but just get to the issues quick. You can apologize and say, look, I don't mean to pry into this, but it's obviously quite important. Jurors will self-disclose if you self-disclose and if you allow them to really tell you what they want and what they mean in a particular case. Let me look at my notes one more time in here to find out any other core questions in your thing. Oh, we always look at should haves. One of the things that you find in employment cases and even in a homeowner's case like this is, people have a lot of, obviously, experiences. So it's what should they have done. It's those rules. And plaintiff attorneys have found that setting out what they call the rules of the road are crucial to allowing jurors to finding out, giving jurors the framework here. And so setting out what jurors' own rules are. Jurors have their own internal rules about what a homeowner should do, what a contractor should do. You can even ask them that. What do you think a contractor should do when they first inspect a house before they're about to put on a roof? What do you think they should do? Those shoulds translate into what they think